Hey, how's it going? This is something that I've noticed whenever I lose weight. My face gets thinner. You know, it's expected. Especially if you were to look at me before. But it's like there's just a little bit more protrusion that kind of goes on. It's kind of all over. And it's just I guess a little bit of it is just age. It kind of seems like my eyes are a little more sunk in for some reason. So just a little something I noticed. Well, yesterday we were talking about success and failure and about, nobody's going to make this happen except for you. I can't come do it for you. No one can. No one's with you 24/7. No one can change what's really going on inside of your mind. And that there's a difference between doing what you want to do and what you need to do versus what other people want from you. And it's kind of scary in a way because is that going to piss people off and you're going to lose them? And then I would say, do you really need those people? I don't know. Food for thought. Ooh, let's see here. So we stopped right whenever he was going to talk about how failure is the norm. And that we need to take our failure and just learn, but also to not quit, not to give up. That's really the only way that you're going to get success out of this. I'm going to back it up a little bit. We made it halfway through, and I think it was like an hour long with that video, and it was like, no, we got to stop. So let's go ahead and recap a little bit. There are always people doing better than you with anything you can imagine, so don't compare yourself to others. And whenever I was looking through, the my homepage, it's all this stuff about celebrities and all this stuff, and how good someone looks in a swimsuit or whatever. And it's like, don't compare yourself to them. Who cares? Why would you bother? Why? I don't get it. And I understand too, that's more of kind of what girls do a little bit, but guys get into that too, and it's just I've never understood it. I don't give a damn, just not at all. You are what you are. Just accept it with dignity and grace. Do what you can. Don't let it fall to the wayside. But man, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just the way that it is. Compare yourself to others is wrong because they are not you. Others have different struggles. That they undertake. Others have different current burdens than you that you're not aware of. All others have had my writing, because I tell you what, my hand was cramping up there. Needed a comma in there. All others have had, comma, no matter who, comma, hard lives. So everyone has a hard life. And just because you see one part of it, I mean, that doesn't mean crap. It's not perfect for anyone. Everyone has struggles. Stop comparing yourself to others. It is jealousy and resentfulness created by you that, you're jealous over something that they have. Because if why should you care? Others don't have your family. Others don't have your temperament. Others don't have your troubles. Other people. Others don't have your abilities. You can only contrast yourself with you because you are unique. Thus, it makes you the only qualified one to compare yourself against. If you want to improve yourself, then you can only gauge you versus yourself, and you can do it. You can make yourself a little better every day. Be careful who you share good and bad news with. Finding beauty is a mystery in life that makes life worth living. And I just added that in because, yeah, there are things that are beautiful. I don't think it really kind of goes with what we're talking about, but manage change in a positive way by making wise, careful, and truthful decisions. The only one who has those is you. Oh, the list up there of things, all these, your abilities, your temperament. This is a game that you can win whenever you compare it against yourself, because with others, it's like you may be comparing yourself to someone and their abilities are stronger than you in this area, and so you'll never be able to win that. But whenever you're comparing against yourself, it's like, yeah, because you're comparing your abilities to you, and your abilities are on par with you, obviously. So, an achievement, so it's a game that you can win. An achievement you can do is to make yourself better than what you were yesterday instead of comparing yourself to someone else. To continuously make yourself better is equivalent to leading a virtuous life. So to note that whenever I do this stuff, I'm talking myself in, I'm trying to find a way to convince myself to do whatever it is that I'm wanting to do. And so this is about self-improvement. This is improving myself and not giving up, and to have perseverance. So these are kind of like these are good, strong arguments for why you should do it and to get your focus on it. But then you don't need to go over it again. You put this aside, you have it as reference just in case, but you compress it all into like a sentence or maybe a few words for quick reference. You don't need to read, a 500-word essay every time. It's about you trust yourself. Yeah, oh yeah, hey, don't give up, I can improve, and don't compare to others. Something along that would summarize all this stuff. And you don't argue about it because you're the one who wrote it. So whenever I do that, it's like I don't question it. That's what I came up with. So if I don't trust myself, it's like I got something else I need to work on. There's something horribly wrong with that. So if you understand this, and this makes sense to you, and you're looking for improvement in your own life or whatever, then I would appreciate it if you would give the video a like and a thumbs up. So let's go ahead and continue. See if we can get through the other half of this video in less than an hour.
Redo.
Oh. Let me change that. All right, take number 2 here.
Everything they can to live a truthful life. And you can get a bloody long ways by being honest. You got to know that there are differences in intelligence. It's really important. If you go into a job and you're not smart enough for that job, you're going to have one bloody miserable time. And you're going to make life wretched for the people around you, because you will know within a few days.
All right, that just shot me up with like 3 commercials.
A truthful life. And you can get a bloody long ways by being honest.
Being honest with yourself. Don't lie. Don't say something like, yeah, I care about my health, and then you don't ever do anything about it. If you want to know if you're lying to yourself, I forgot where I saw this from. But, write about the things that you proclaim to care so much about. As much as you want, don't worry about your spelling or anything like that. It's not a grade for English class. Just, what's everything that's important to you? That's really important to you. And then take it and put it aside, and then write about what the hell do you actually do with your day? And see if the two mesh up. And if they don't, well, you're not being honest with yourself. You're lying to yourself. That's a good place to start in evaluating yourself to see if maybe there's some improvement that you need to do, And that's being set by your own standards, by what you want to do.
You got to know that there are differences in intelligence. It's really important. If you go...
This that he's saying right here about intelligence in a job, this, I probably won't say much on this because this is something for probably another video. Because I definitely have thoughts on all this with intelligence. And from what he's saying, it's like, it sounds like it's correct. But I think we'll get into it at some point in time, but not now.
Go into a job and you're not smart enough for that job, you're going to have one bloody miserable time. And you're going to make life wretched for the people around you because you won't be able to handle the position. But what you really want to do, as far as I can tell, if you want to maximize your chances for both success and let's say well-being, is you want to find a strata of occupation in which you would have an intelligence that would put you in the upper pool.
And this is going to be something because he talks about, if you want to have a good life, if you want to really feel like your life is going well, then you need to have a job, you need to have intimate relationships, you need to have your finances, and there's like 6 of these things that he lists, and it's like, yes to all those. Absolutely. So
quartile. That's perfect. Then you're a big fish in a small pond. And you don't want to be this, you don't want to be the stupidest guy in the room. It's a bloody rough place to be. So, and you probably don't want to be the smartest guy in the room either, because what that probably means is you should be in a different room. If you want to be the best at what you're doing, bar none, then having an IQ of above 145 is a necessity, and maybe you're pushing 160 in some situations. And maybe that's making you one person in 10,000 or even one person in 100,000.
I don't know why he put this in here. You know, what is this? Oh, so again, this is a title of the video is Jordan Peterson Leaves the Audience Speechless. One of the best motivational speeches ever. It's like, this is not his speech. This is several of his speeches. Man, this whole title is just wrong. From Motivational Hub, but it works. I mean, 2 million views on this, but there's nothing motivating about this that, oh, he's basically telling you that you're stupid because it's like 1 in 10,000 people reach this, you know, or really you're born this way. You either have it or you don't, and there's nothing that you can do to change it. Because they have those IQ sites that claim that they can make you smarter. It's like there's no proof of it whatsoever. And it's like, yeah, kind of knew that, because if those things were true and you could improve your IQ, everybody everywhere would be doing that stuff all the time. And they're not, because it's just a bunch of lies.
And then also, to really be...
What is it called? Luminosity?
Reasonably stress-tolerant and also somewhat conscientious. Why is it that smart people are at the top of dominance hierarchies? And
okay, I like this part though.
And also somewhat conscientious. Maybe you're pushing 160 in some situations.
So, if you want to be successful, he's talking about one of the things that you do need though is the higher your intelligence, the better. And
situations. And maybe that's making you one person in 10,000 or even one person in 100,000. And then also, to really be good at it, you probably have to be reasonably stress tolerant.
Stress tolerant. Now, can you become stress tolerant? Can you improve that? I think so. And I say this because it's kind of what happens to everyone who joins the military, especially if you're in some kind of combat position, is that they put you through the ringer and they tear you down. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me take that back. They used to. They don't anymore. I was talking to a guy about a week or so ago, just struck up a conversation with him, found out he was the recruiter for around here, or one of them. And he was like, yeah, they don't do the things that they used to whenever you went through training. It's just nothing. You wouldn't recognize it. You'd probably go to sleep. And I was like, oh, damn. I heard they had stress cards. Do they have that? He's like, in some places, I think they do. He was, what was he? He was infantry within the Army. And he's like, they don't have that there. But they have a lot of things that it's just, it shouldn't be there. It's like, oh, crap. And we got into it, and it was just one thing after another. But it used to be, definitely for sure back in the day, it was like this, where, yeah, you would come out, and it was like, that doesn't bother me anymore. I really don't care. I was in the military. I did basic training, and you just don't have jack on that. So it's like, yeah, I would get torn apart if I were to let this nonsense bother me. So yeah, no, forget that.
And also somewhat conscientious.
And conscientious, and that's part of the big five, and that's something else that I want to get into later. So there's plenty of things to talk about later.
Why is it that smart people are at the top of dominance hierarchies? And the answer to that, in part, is because they get there first, right? I mean, everything's a race.
And see, and that's kind of the thing right now, is that I feel like I'm just moving at a snail's pace, and I probably am at a way, but you know, is it unreasonable? It's like, well, starting off, probably not. But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't be pushing myself and doing more, you know. And so what is reasonable and what's not, I don't know. But I do have that kind of in the back of my mind, you know. So,
roughly speaking. And the faster you are, the more likely you are to be at the forefront of the pack. And intelligence, in large part, is speed. That's not...
But I will say this too, though. What I want to do, I don't think I really have any competitors either, but still, I don't care about being at the front. I just care about, can we put an end to this line? And yes, I know the checks and balances that are going to drastically help with all this stuff. So, but I got things I need to work on with myself first. So.
Not all of this. So if you're moving towards something difficult rapidly, the faster people are going to get there first. You're going to have to put some effort into your life. And you need to be motivated to do that. And so what are the potential sources of motivation? Well, you could think about them in the big five manner. You know, if you're extroverted, you want friends. If you're agreeable, you want an intimate relationship. If you're disagreeable, you want to win competitions. If you're open, you want to engage in creative activity.
And see, I haven't paid attention to this with the big five stuff, and it's because I've been procrastinating. Like, well, is there something better? I don't know enough. I need to watch more videos, read more articles, books, whatever, and it's like, no. Because you know what's happened over these past few years whenever I kind of started on this journey? Next to nothing. Because it's like there's always more. And it's just more questions and more doubt. And it's like, if I'd applied myself while doing this instead of just putting it off, I would be in a completely different place right now. And so, yeah, that's something that's being done right now. Is that no, I'm doing this.
If you're high neuroticism, you want security. Okay, so those are all sources of potential motivation that you could draw on, that you could tailor to your own, you know, your own personality. But,
you know, I'm going to mark that down. Actually, the big five. Maybe that'll be next.
But then there are dimensions that you want to consider your life across. And so we ask people about, well, you know, if you could have your life the way you wanted it in 3 to 5 years, if you were taking care of yourself properly, you know, what would you want from your friendships? What would you want from your intimate relationship? How would you like to structure your family? What do you want for your career? Well, how are you going to use your time outside of your job? And how are you going to regulate your mental and physical health, and maybe also your drug and alcohol use? Because that's a good place to auger down. And that tangles in your incentive reward system. You know, we talked about the dopaminergic incentive reward system, and that's the thing that keeps you moving forward.
All right.
Also your drug and alcohol use, because that's a good place to auger down. And that tangles in your incentive reward system.
Your incentive reward system. I want to get into this more.
You know, we talked about the dopaminergic incentive reward.
Dopaminergic.
System, and that's the thing that keeps you moving forward.
It keeps you moving forward. In other words, I hear this a lot. I don't know where this book is, but it's called The Power of Habit or something like that. It's a yellow book. It's older now. And they talked about how we build up habits because we get a little dopamine release, and every time we do this thing that we like for whatever reason, whenever we get that and we keep doing it, that's how you build up a habit. And I'm trying to push myself to making myself enjoy doing these YouTube videos, and to constantly do it and constantly feel good, and making that loop. There's a cue. I'll find it. So it's right here. Power of habit. And right here, it's you get in a routine because there's a cue, and you do a routine, you get a reward, and then you do it all over again. And so it kind of has a little diagram right there of one of the examples of how we kind of do this. And that's what I'm trying to do. Here's another one, same thing. A cue, a routine, and a reward. You know, craving for stimulation. It was a New York Times bestseller. From my understanding, it hasn't been disproven. I mean, it's what Jordan Peterson is talking about right now.
And the way it works is that it works better if it produces positive emotion when it can see you moving towards a valued goal. Okay.
Yeah. You just can't say these things that, oh, I value A, B, and C. You need to really value it, and then you need to do whatever you can to help feel good for that accomplishment. And I've been doing that, where it's like, oh, I feel good whenever I've learned something else. I've been doing a lot behind the scenes where it's like I've really got to get as much crap as I can out of my life, and to focus in on this and putting all my ducks in a row so that I can go and not stop. I don't want anything to bother me, because whenever I've got it all, I'm going to be telling people no and situations no. I got to come here and I got to do this. And I think I keep getting closer, and I'm trying not to procrastinate with this stuff, because it's like I'm a landlord, and so I've got some things with some tenants that they kind of keep creeping up, and it's like I've just about got it. And then there's some other things, some personal things and some financial things, and it's just like they're all right there, because I've really thought hard about it, and it's like, nope, it's meaningless, and I've put a lot of things just completely out of my life. And there's some things that I'm just flat out getting rid of in every manner, shape, and it's just like, no, it's this, because I believe like crazy about this thing. Almost use a little profanity. I try not to. Anyways.
Okay, well, what's the implication of that? Better have a valued goal, because otherwise you can't get any positive momentum.
Let me pause and right. All right. So the dopamic incentive reward system, it keeps you moving forward, and it works better if it produces a positive emotional response when you move towards a value goal. So you need a value goal. So let's hear him say it again here.
Reward system, and that's the thing that keeps you moving forward. And the way it works is that it works better if it produces positive emotion when it can see you moving towards a valued goal. Okay, well, what's the implication of that? better have a valued goal, because otherwise you can't get any positive motivation.
Yeah, and then I'm sorry, I was talking about how you need these dimensions in your life. There's like 6 of them, and then he just said them because I went back to look, and it's like, oh.
That you want to consider your life across. And so we ask people about, well, you know, if you could have your life the way you wanted it in 3 to 5 years, if you were taking care of yourself properly, you know, what would you want from your friendships? What would you want?
Okay, so what would you want from your friendships? Here, I'll pause it and write it down and then go over again. All right, and so he talks about, as a psychiatrist, that these are the things that he would focus on with his patients to really kind of help them out, getting a grip on their life. As usually they'd be falling kind of down in several of these, not one, because you can get away with not having to have all of these, but you know, you really want to have like 3 or 4 of them. Anyways, let's listen to these. There's 6.
People about, well, you know, if you could have your life the way you wanted it in 3 to 5 years, if you were taking care of yourself properly.
So number 1.
What would you want from your friendships? What would you want from your intimate relationship? How would you like to structure your family? What do you want for your career? Well, how are you going to use your time outside of your job? And how are you going to regulate your mental and physical health, and maybe also your drug and alcohol use, because that's a good place to auger down. And that tangles in your incentive reward system.
Yeah, so, you know, what do you want from your friendships, with your intimate relationships? You got to sit down and really kind of hash this out, and then make sure that your life is actually doing this. That you're not just saying it, that you're doing it. And this also means that there are going to be a few people, especially like your significant other, who really needs to be on the same page with this. I have a great example of this too. This is The Machine, Bert Kreischer, The Machine story. And he's a comedian, and he's talking about back whenever he was in college, he took Russian as one of his courses to be able to graduate, and it was just smooth sailing, and he got talked into going to Russia by the teacher because they needed 13. He was the 13th one, and she was like, I'll give you a passing grade. I'll give you like a C plus or something like that. And he's like, all right. And it was just one thing after another, and it's funny. You know, they everything was controlled by the mafia back then, showing them around, and they get on the train, and they have a different teacher who's on them with the train, and he's been causing nothing but trouble while he's on the train and gets caught.
She comes over to our first class cabinet, swings the door open with that like liberal arts confidence, just. This shit is over. You're done. You're done. Stand up right now. You stand up. Help, you're done. Stand up. And Big Igor looks at me confused, then smiles, takes a big sip of vodka, spits it in her eyes, and goes, no one talks to the machine like that. Shuts the door in her face and goes, fuck that bitch, this is Russia.
He gets the nickname The Machine because he doesn't know Russian at all. He knows a little bit, but he tries to prepare a speech whenever he meets these guys, and the only thing that comes out of his mouth is, I'm the machine. It's the only thing he knows how to say. For some reason it comes to his, and they all get a big kick out of it, and then they start spreading all these stories, the mafia guys, about, yeah, this is machine, don't mess with them. You know, they all have fun with it, and that's what that is. But
Don't worry, machine, when it gets dark, we have good time. Like, what the fuck are we doing when it gets dark? Reaches in his pocket, pulls out a ring of keys, and he goes, we're robbing the whole fucking train.
this story here, though, this is what I was thinking of whenever what do you want from your family? How would you like to structure your family? What do you want from your intimate relationships?
I'm a good person. I don't cheat. I don't cheat. This is why. Let me tell you. I don't cheat on my wife. I don't cheat on my wife because one morning our whole family was in bed. The dogs, the cats, the girls, my wife, and we were just giggling, and it was pure. It was perfect. And I thought to myself, I don't ever want to screw this up. This is the most important thing. This is what life's about. And they got up to make chocolate chip pancakes, and I laid in bed and I said, I will never cheat on my wife. I had a conversation with myself. I said, if I ever get into a situation where a hot girl's flirting with me, or I think she's flirting with me, and it seems like he can...
You know, he had a conversation with himself because he found something beautiful. And that was just him and his little kids and the dog and the cat just all in bed, just chilling and just laughing and just having a nice morning, you know?
Go further. I'm just going to cock block myself. I'm just going to look her in the face in front of everyone and go, I don't cheat on my wife! Now, I may be wrong. She may not be hitting on me. She may throw a drink in my face, slap me, or I may be right. None of that matters to me. What matters to me is that I don't cheat on my wife because I've already had that conversation. Here's the problem. I never had that conversation about robbing trains. So when presented the opportunity, I thought I'd be like, not me. I'm going to go back and work on my verbs. But apparently, when presented the opportunity, I'm the guy that's like, fuck it, let's start with my class.
You know, and so that's why this is important, you know, because I've known people like this. I have been one of these people where it's like you get caught up in a situation you've never really kind of molded over, and you end up doing something that you regret. You can't avoid that because there's just too many situations out there. But there are some situations where it's like, no, that was too big of a deal. You know, this was something that was too important. I should have had this thing sorted out first. You know, so for example, you know, like I don't cheat on my wife. And I had that conversation. And I will C-block myself because I found something beautiful with my family. And I don't want to ruin that. And it's like, well, that's great. What else could you do to strengthen that? What more could you find beautiful in more situations, making things better for you and your family? Like, that's what I want. That's what I'm doing right here. This is the House of Jones. This is the noble House of Jones because I want that. And it just doesn't happen. You know, it's like, no, not me. Not at all. And so for me, with like, how would you like to structure your family? I do not want to have a house filled with a bunch of fake nonsense of just some garbage that was bought in some store. I would rather see a house filled with crafts that are nothing but memories. Now, yeah, I mean, some casual decorations from a store or whatever. It's like, well, we're not going to build furniture and a couch and stuff like that. But like for the holidays, whenever I was real little, we were poor. And so to put ornaments on the trees, the folks bought little wooden ornaments. And you could put them together and paint them or whatever. And that was great. You know, it was great for little kids. I don't remember it, but I knew about it because we kept those ornaments forever. They're probably still somewhere in a box. And Mom loved to tell that story and just how much fun it was to put those things together. And it was just so simple and so easy. And it's like, that's what I want. I don't want this big fake tree with a bunch of glittery nonsense. It's like, no, I want to make it more into that. I want it to be where we're waking up in the morning and we're spending family time together and we're talking about our day and we're building skills and doing something more productive and not just sitting around watching TV and ignoring each other. No, screw that crap. So, and I will leave a link in the video for this as well. It's pretty funny. If you want to see, I like watching especially comedians with other people reacting to it. And there's one girl where she is from Russia. Yeah, right here. And as you can see, the little red lines. I've watched a lot of these. I watched them. I watched her, and she's Dasha of Russia, and she's in college. She's in Canada, and she's just funny to watch. And whenever he gives his little stories about Russia, she's like, "Oh yes, that's the Russian mafia, and all this kind of stuff, And I like to watch a lot of them. I like watching Bill Burr too. Here's a guy he's from Russia. He actually is still living there, and he's like, yeah. And whenever they get to the story about him talking about his wife, especially all the girls, they're like, oh, they kind of melt, over that stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's nice. It's nice. It brings me a little bit of hope, that the world's not all evil and crazy kind of nonsense. So,
monetizing it, right? So your default creative people valued goal. Okay, well, what's the implication of that? Better have a valued goal, because otherwise you can't get any positive motivation.
All right, so I guess that kind of works, with that part on having goals that you value and creating this routine of a cue and a routine and a reward, and you have something if it makes you feel good, because whenever you feel good, that's because you've gotten a little bit of dopamine release. But this part,
most creative people fail at producing their creative product and monetizing it, right? So your default position, if you're a creative person, is you're going to fail. And that's because
if you're a creative person, you're going to fail. Yep.
because it's hard to come up with something new, and it's hard
because it's all hard.
to present it to the market.
It's hard to come up with something new. It's hard to present it to the market.
And
it's hard to do it at the right time.
Hard to market it. Like, those things are really, really difficult. And so what's success?
And I know exactly what he's talking about, because this isn't any cakewalk.
Successful entrepreneurs do is they just keep doing it over and over and over.
But they just keep doing it, and that's, this is it. You're just going to fail. It's going to be there. It's fail, and learn. You just keep pushing at it. That's why I chose that right there. Yep, so if you're a creative person, if you're going to do something, you should expect failure, because it's all hard. And people who succeed, it's because they just keep doing it.
Over and over and over and over and over. And eventually, if they're fortunate, one of their ideas happens to hit the right place at the right time. Even if your idea is good, that doesn't mean it will be successful.
One of my ideas was, for a little while, I thought I was going to get into the restaurant business, because it can be pretty lucrative. I was trying to think, okay, well, what hasn't been done? And what do people like, and what do they want? Well, they like fast food stuff, because that's all over the place, and all those do really well. So it's like, okay, well, what hasn't been done with fast food where you can pull up to a drive-up window? And it was like, Italian food. That's something that's not. It's like there's no spaghetti and meatballs version of McDonald's or Taco Bell or whatever. I looked into it a little bit, and it was like the success rate, though, of restaurants, it's like 9 out of 10 fail, and you work like over 100 hours a week. It was like ridiculously just cutthroat stuff. And it's like, well, I got to thinking about it. It's like, well, yeah, that makes sense, because who has to eat? Everybody. And we've been cooking forever, so there's just a lot of it out there. The market is, in a way, it's really saturated, because people are never going to stop eating, because you die if you do that. But it was like, 3 or 4 months later, guess what came to town? A fast food Italian restaurant called Frizzoli's. It's like, oh man, and it's like they kind of do. I don't know how well they do. They're kind of on. They just have one store. It's on one of the richest parts of town, and it's okay. I've been there a few times. They got around it because they pre-made the meals, and it's in aluminum foil. So then that way, whenever it's time, they just heat it back up. And so if you ever get from them, or at least it used to be all in, like the base was in aluminum foil, and then they'd have a plastic top, so it'd just go into a microwave or oven or whatever and heat it on up. And it's like, that's it. Wasn't hard, but even if I'd gone through with what I want, if I'd gone through with that, I still wouldn't have been able to have done it, though, because they just beat me to it, because they were already established by the time I thought of it. Just because they weren't at Amarillo doesn't mean that they weren't everywhere else. So
there's so many things that have to be taken into account. So this is partly why persistence, and that's part of conscientiousness.
yes, so be persistent. And conscientious. Yeah, I definitely need to look into conscientiousness more. I've looked into it. I've looked into the Big Five a little bit, but I just haven't really kind of dug into it, and I'm going to proclaim it as procrastinating.
So useful. It's like persistence is helpful because it enables you to run many, many experiments. And you need to know that the baseline is...
Yeah, to run many experiments, because that's what I'm doing. It's like, is this really working? So do I need to change it up? Whenever I have 2 YouTube channels, Practical Focus Improvement and Freedom of Expression. With Freedom of Expression, I've changed that up quite a bit. Like I'll have a little notepad document above my head where I'm trying to give enough of what it is that I'm trying to do, but I can't do it all because it's just there's no way it's going to take everybody for this. And so it's always kind of trying to work it out where it can be kind of simple and to the point, but have a little bit of meat to it. It's like it should be something that if you were in school, say college or high school or whatever, and you had an assignment, that you would be able to use this material to reference whatever it is that you were researching, so something along those lines. So it doesn't need to be the entire history of everything and every little segment, every nuanced little thing, just kind of where it gets to the point and it's clear enough and precise enough that you can use it.
Failure. It's important because otherwise you'll blame that on yourself. And
back
some
up
of
a little
that's
bit here.
part of conscientiousness is so useful. It's like persistence is helpful because it enables you to run many experiments. And
All right, I'm going to put that down. I have to run many experiments. Yeah, so you have to run many experiments. Or maybe another way to put it is that you need to make changes. You need to continue to learn. You shouldn't just be sitting there just saying, well, I need to learn more. No, it's I am doing this and I am learning. Learning's not enough. It's like that's it's 2 parts, and that's the smaller part. The larger part, the first part, is that you need to go and do it. And then the second part, which is it's still big, and that's why it's number 2, is that you need to learn. You need to change. It's like, what can I make better? It's like, that is exactly what's going on with this. Because I tell you what, I'm gonna make this work. So everybody who's watching this, I tell you what, you're gonna see something happen with this. And if I have my way, which I don't see how, it won't be anything other than it's gonna be big. It's gonna be big.
you need to know that
There's just a grind that I'm gonna have to do. So
the baseline is failure.
And you need to know that the baseline is failure. Yeah, so the baseline is failure, not success.
It's important because otherwise you'll blame that on yourself.
Yeah. It's not your fault that you fail. That's just the way it is. It's not your fault that you fail. That's just life, or how it is, however you want to word it. That's just life. It's normal. Because what have you failed at? How many failed relationships have you had? How many jobs worked out where you're just going to work that job forever? How many homes have you lived in? No, you've made a ton of changes throughout your life, no matter how old you are, because it wasn't good enough. It was a failure in some way. You made changes. I mean, even if you're young, how many changes have you made in your study habits? How many changes did you make with writing to get to where you could write decently so that you and others could read it? How many changes did you have to make, if you're young, to play video games so that you could be good at it? Whatever your talents and your skills are, you had to make a bunch of changes because you failed like crazy at first. But you kept making these changes, and you got better, and you got better, and you got better, and you got better, and you got better.
And some of that's useful because there's probably some things that you could improve about yourself, but it's very difficult to go from 0 to 1.
Yes. Oh man, I love that. And then he talks about another stuff where it's about a biblical reference where that ask and you shall receive, and it's the more you get, the more that even becomes where it's where you start off at 0, but as long as you keep making progress, the progress kind of magnifies itself until it goes straight up. And this is where you get the 1% too. This kind of happens that if you get, the higher you get, the more people want to work with you. And it's because you have this track record of all this success. It's like, oh, you've done this thing and this and this and this and this and this, and now here you are. And it becomes a point where you no longer have to go looking for it. People are coming to you. And whenever he said that, I thought of that show, Shark Tank. Isn't that it? It's where it's got those really rich people who are looking to invest. Yeah, it's Shark Tank. It's a TV program. 12 seasons. It started back in 2007. And they're all these really rich people. They're all multimillionaires. And they no longer have to go out and look for the next big thing. It's coming to them. So for example, if you were someone like Donald Trump and you were a person like me or like us, we had a really good idea. We want to go to people who have the money, the resources, the knowledge to be able to make this stuff work. And I would assume that at some point in time, that is something that I'll have to do, but I have to kind of prove myself first because I have to separate myself from everyone else. It's like, well, yeah, you claim to have a great idea, and so do all these other millions of people out there. So I need to at least get past through a bunch of the really low-level stuff, and it's like I'm not there yet. And whenever I see these stories of these people who really succeeded, it's like it was years of grinding, and it's because it was like this, they started off with nothing. But then they finally caught on and they start getting these successes, and then it's like, oh, I'm super wealthy or super successful in whichever way. And it's like, yeah. So, okay, well, that didn't take too long. I think this is a good place to stop right now. I am going to be busy tomorrow, but I said Saturday or Sunday, I'm going to try to do the end of the week episode as to what does all of this mean. But not only am I busy tomorrow, though, I'm also busy on the weekend. But the next episode, whenever it is, it'll be between now and Monday. And you know what? If I can, you know, if it takes me until Monday, then I'll do my damnedest to do 2 videos, and so of this practical focused improvement. So, you know what? If this made sense, if you found hope and encouragement out of this, that, you know what? Yeah, it's okay to fail. And it's like, that's what people do all the time. And it's in contrast to this stupid participation trophy. It's like, no, you don't get a trophy for participating. I just absolutely hate it. And any time that I can just drive that into the dirt, I take it. That competing and trying, what you should be learning is perseverance. To continue to go, to pick yourself up, even though you didn't get anything from it, even though you might have actually really been hurt, either physically or mentally. Maybe somebody left you, broke up with you, or, I mean, how many ways can you get hurt? There's plenty. And it's like, you don't give up. You just continue to go on anyways. The world's not going to stop for you, so don't get into that. And don't expect anything out of it. You know, and learn to be self-dependent and self-reliant, that I don't need others. I don't need their approval or their, what's the word? I'm having a brain fart here. I said it the other day. I don't need their acceptance. I don't need other people to accept me. I don't need them in order to boost myself up. I don't need anything from them. And, you know, part of that was, you know, he was talking about what would you want from your friendships. And it's like, well, that's one of them. You know, I want friends that whenever something good happens to me, that they can truly be happy for me, instead of talking down to me or using it as a weapon or one-upping me, that they can let me have my moment. That's also a two-way street. That means doing it back in return. And one of the things that you can do to help with that is just flat out tell them. And that will be a good sign. It's like, okay, well, if they care and they are good people, then that should make sense. They should not argue with you about it. And it's like, oh yeah, well, I do care about you. And yeah, that makes sense. You know, whenever you have something good, I should genuinely be happy for you, and whenever something good happens to me, you should be genuinely happy for me too. You know, same thing whenever there's something sad or bad going on. You know, and so, yeah. Where do they ever teach this in school? It's like, I never heard anything like this in school. So that's why I'm doing this here, because it's like, this all is important to me. I would think it's important to damn near everybody. So if you've understood this, I would appreciate it if you would give the video a like, thumbs up, and subscribe and become a member. Just those 2 things. Change your mind. You can change all that stuff later. And thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.